Welcome PFHA members to the first segment of Ask the Trainer. On behalf of our PFHA president, Ms. Jeannie Griggs, the chair of the membership committee, Judy Bradbury, and the president of the Professional Pasofino Trainers Association, Ms. Christy Meyer, we welcome you into our home. Today, we're going to answer many of the questions that were sent in. We're not going to have time to get to all of them, and we thank all of you for sending these wonderful questions in. We will get to them in their entirety at some point. It just can't be in this 30 minutes. We're going to go through a few of these questions, many of them pretty much married together, kind of melted together, and I'll try to answer them as such. Let's get started.
What advice do you have for youth and amateurs new to the breed?
Well, number one, I would say read the rule book. Make sure you understand the rules. Ask questions if you do not. And if you're a trail rider, understand the rules of the trail. Yes, Pasofino should maintain gait on the trail. Different speeds, different undulations of the terrain, everything like that, but they should still maintain gait, and that comes with training. Secondly, I would highly recommend that you take dressage lessons. Dressage, just the meaning of dressage is harmony between horse and rider, and that's what we're after here. Now, please understand, throughout my 30 minutes or so here, we're not just going to be talking about Pasofino horses. Because in my 50 years as a trainer, I've been very fortunate to deal with 6 and 7 different breeds. Each of the breeds taught us something different. And that's the information we're going to bring forward for you. All the while, I want you to understand, we're going to try to keep you safe. That's the key issue with what we're doing here. We're not talking about finish training to win the Grand National Championship in Classic Pheno. That's not what we're doing here. This is all about you and your horse and you staying safe. The other thing we want you to be cautious about is where you get your information from. A lot of stuff on the internet, and you can self-diagnose a medical crisis and make it into a big deal the more you research. Well, that's not what we're trying to do. Again, we're going to give you some building block training methodology to try to get your horse trained. Third or fourth on the list of the advice I would give is buy a very naturally gaited Pasofino. That's a key issue. You'll be well ahead of the curve, the learning curve, if your horse already has the genetics to do just that. Take a professional trainer with you. Many of us do consulting work. People will hire us to go with them to look at a potential purchase. Money well spent. Years you can pick up if you get the correct horse. Now, I'm going to give you a saying that we came up with, and Winona Walton and I put in our book years ago. Our book is called Horse Sense and Training. It's still available, but we're not trying to sell anything here. That's not the issue. The issue is it goes like this. It's better to want the horse you don't have than to have the horse you don't want. Why would we say that? Well, when you get the wrong horse home and he's not or she's not going to be able to do what you want done, you're already emotionally attached to that horse, and it's tough to give them up. So many times we continue to push the envelope, if you will, and try to make the horse do what we want, knowing that it just does not have the athleticism to do that, or the naturalness of the gait in the Pasofino. So make sure you take a lot of time, spend some money if you have to, before you sign on the bottom line. That's my reply to the amateurs and the youth riders coming into the breed.
What is the best way to develop the Largo in a young Pasofino, And how do you ask a horse for a quarto to largo and largo back to quarto?
Well, developing the largo and the passo fino is all about momentum. So let's start at the beginning. The walk of the passo fino is the same footfall as the passo corto and as the passo largo. It's the same. The only difference is the length of stride. Now, the stride in a horse is basically measured from when the front foot lifts and comes back down. It's a difference between, and I wrote it down, the stride is a distance between successive imprints of the same foot. So what do we have to do to produce a largo in a young horse, or any horse for that matter? We have to think that as we're training, that we are going to lengthen the stride of this horse. What do we need to develop that? Well, we need to make sure we have momentum. Momentum in passo fino sometimes is categorized with the term brio. Now, you do what you want with the term. That works for us, and we're not trying to impose our training methodologies on you. We're just opening your mind, and you might have to think of a different way that works for you. Here's what I do know. All of the training, all of the consistency of training throughout the world and every breed pretty much is the same. The only difference is the techniques. Or the technique, I should say. So you have your technique. You've got to have a game plan on what you're going to do and how to get there. Several times you will hear us say we start with A, B, C, and go from there as they progress in training. Every day, each training session starts with A, B, C, and we grow. We want to make sure they understand that. Let's touch base right now. We were talking about the largo, but I want to touch base with kind of the 3 C's of our training protocol here at Royal Oak. We have the 3 C's. Comfort is number 1. We do not want the horse to be in pain in any way because we want a responsive project horse, if you will. We don't want them to have to worry about pain in setting up defense. So we're not going to put them in pain. We're not going to put training gear on them that induces pain. Secondly, we want consistency in our A, B, C, D, E. Every day the same. Thirdly, we want control. We're going to maintain control by giving them a comfort level that they don't have to set up a defense, consistency in our communication, because that's actually our 4th C, communication, probably the number 1. And then go on to maintaining control through our training technique. Keep that in mind. We're at the largo. We're going to get to the largo. What do we need to do? We have our horse at a walk. We put them up into the passo corto. So what have we done? We have induced momentum to take a longer stride from the walk to the corto. It takes momentum. It takes brio, ladies and gentlemen, to maintain gait. So I don't want to hear you say, I don't want a horse with any brio. Because if all you're saying is, I don't want a horse that'll maintain gait. And we're sure that's not what you're asking for. So don't be afraid of the brio. Control it. Maintain consistency with it. Make sure they're comfortable with it. All right? We're going to step out now from the corto to the largo. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take the brakes off. We're going to allow this horse to know that it's okay to take a longer stride. It's okay. That's what we're communicating. Do not think that the horse is sitting there trying to have what we call the power to reason, because they do not. They do not think like we do. They think like a horse, and we need to think like a horse in an effort to communicate with them. Okay? Keep it consistent, keep it comfortable, maintain control. The Largo will come with more practice. You allow them to go at the Paso Corto. You've got them right here in the reins, comfortable, secure. And now you take the brake off, as I said earlier, and you allow them to take a longer stride. When they start to stride out, do not worry if they're not in gait. If your horse is naturally gaited and you've done your homework in the Paso Corto, the Largo will come in just a few training sessions. So don't be afraid if they go trotty a little bit or something. Maybe sometimes they'll even throw in a little bit of a freebie, a little canter, a little gallop, whatever it may be, a little ope, whichever it is. Okay, don't worry about that. Don't let them do it very long, but that's the momentum you're trying to get to. Two things. We need the momentum, we need the length of stride. Let them come up into that bridle and through the reins, from your brain, through your hands, through the reins, to their mouth or outside, you're telling them right there, right there, right there, right there. That's what I want. That's the consistency of training. Right there, right there, right there. No, 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 no. Right there, right there, right there. Consistency of control. That's how you'll increase that Largo. And don't be surprised if all of a sudden one day it'll click and you go. And it's a wonderful feeling. I love that situation in our Paso Finos. Next.
What tack do you use to start a young Paso, especially a bit, and when do you introduce it to the horse?
Great question. Well, I'll be honest with you. We train a lot more breeds than just Paso Finos, but we start them all the same way because our principles of training have been proven to work, okay? Do we change the technique on each horse? Well, probably. We're training a 1,500 pound quarter horse or one of the thoroughbreds off the track to play polo, whatever it is. We may have to adjust our technique, but the principle is the same. The principle is this: pull and release, pull and release, pull and release. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Don't ever forget that every time you touch a horse, you are training. It really is that simple. If you don't forget that, you'll jump light years ahead in your overall consistency and training. All right, this is basically a Colombian Bozal. This particular nose band is moldable. We can do what we want with it, make it for whatever size horse. Where we connect the reins is on the side ring. We use two sets of reins. On the side ring and underneath on this, what we call the alzador. Okay? Now this is just a piece of leather. This one is a little more stiff than many of the other ones. We probably have 20 of these. And depending on how the horse responds, will depend on which one we use. Number one, we try to make sure that the horse is comfortable. But what are we playing with? We're playing this edge right here on the lower mandible, on the nerve endings. Now, why, you might ask, why do we do that instead of how these other trainers do the other breeds? And actually, they start them in some kind of a snaffle. Well, we do too. This is a full cheek snaffle. This is probably the cornerstone of all of our training. Now, this has side guides or cheek guides because we like that. Again, it's a situation of comfort, okay? When we start into the flexing scenario, trying to gain control, this horse doesn't know anything. He's never read the rule book. He doesn't understand anything. And many of the folks out there, they get in trouble thinking that the horse understands and comprehends. They don't. They don't. They don't learn from osmosis, okay? It's a key issue that you comprehend what they're mentally going through. And so that you can understand programming. That is the cornerstone of any training, of any trainer, of any breed. Programming. That's what you're doing. Not unlike programming a computer. The horse will only give you back what you program correctly or incorrectly. They'll definitely react and they'll revert right back to what God gave them. Fight or flight. That's all. In between, it was not a situation of, Oh, I think I'll run away. Oh no, she's being good today. Susie's having a great day and she's being kind to me. So I'm going to go ahead and be good. They don't do that. They do react to comfort, but don't expect any more than that. Do not. Please don't. Okay? All right. So we start them in the bullseye. Once they understand all the cues from that, for example, stopping, halting, backing up, turning, right, left, flexing to both sides. We do that with 2 sets of reins. Again, keep in mind that we're not in their mouth, so we're not hurting anything inside. The bars of the mouth are protected with the initial training. Okay? Stay with me. All right. We get them what we call secure in the bozal. And I can't tell you how many months that may take, but it'll be months. Once we feel that they understand everything and negotiate and we can control them and we can communicate with them through this, now we're ready to introduce step number 2, which here is our full cheek snaffle. Okay? Now why do we use a full cheek snaffle? Because once we start transferring the knowledge from the bozal via the reins, via one set of the reins, we now transfer that knowledge by having one set of reins on the bozal and one set of reins on the bit. Before we do any of this, we allow the horse to carry this bit maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. Much of the time we put honey on the bit. This is just a full cheek snaffle. There's nothing harsh here, nothing to hurt them. We want it to be comfortable. So we put honey and different things, there are molasses on here. We want them to look for this bit. As we come in to put this onto them, majority of our horses gap their mouth like, give it to me, baby. I'm ready. It's like us with a bit in their mouth. It's like us with a lifesaver in ours. We want them to salivate. We want them to have a lot of lubrication so that this is not dry. Now, we've got our reins hooked to this and to the bozal, transferring knowledge from one to the other. Let's talk about flexing for just a moment. This is a pet peeve of mine with trainers of all these breeds. You see some of these trainers flexing these horses, jerking, snatching. Not here. Not here. All of that jerking, snatching, pulling hard, being rough, taking their head back to their butt. Let me tell you, all that does is make them set up a defense. Would that make you real comfortable if somebody did that to you? No. You'd be bracing knowing the pain's coming. So do it kindly, do it comfortably. What does that take? Well, it may take more time than forcing the issue, because we never force the issue. Okay? So here we go. That's the initial start of a young paso or any horse for anyway. We do the same thing with our quarter horses. No big deal. Okay? Communicate, control. Be consistent, and let it be comfortable. All right.
Well, that's a perfect transition into what are the traditional steps to start a paso fino.
Well, number one, you've got to maintain control. Here at Royal Oak, we do everything with a pony horse. That horse is the control modular that we have that many people don't. I know you folks sitting at home there, you may say, well, I've only got one horse, so I don't. Well, the only thing I can tell you is make sure you have a very safe area, like a round pen. And I'm not talking about a round pen, sorry that I even have to say this, a round pen made out of barbed wire, out of T-posts, out of electric wire, out of all those things that can do only damage. Because this young horse is going to react. It's going to react. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how much time. It's a situation of them not comprehending at some point in time. Okay? So, safe area. If you're by yourself, I wish you well, because that is a tough scenario. But you can get it done with patience and being calm. Okay? So we're going to do this traditional Colombian headgear on them. We'll try to get on them slow and calm. Step up, step down. Do that 20 times. Make sure they're balanced before you try to step up. Make sure they're secured where you don't have to worry about them jumping or lunging forward as you sit down in the saddle. Let them wear that saddle for a month before you ever do anything. If you have sacks of feed, you can put a 50-pound sack of feed up there so they can get used to carrying weight. Okay, secure the secure the bag of feed somehow. Put a ratchet strap or something around, and don't tighten it up, but just make sure that that 50-pound sack's not going to go anywhere. If you have the benefit like we do of a pony horse, we pony them without a rider for a long time. Have we ever just gotten on the same day we introduce the saddle? Yes, but we're used to that. We read the horse. We are able to tell whether the horse can do that fast. Again, safe area, secure area. Make sure somebody's there with you. Don't do this by yourself. Make sure whoever's with you has a cell phone that can in fact call for help if you need. Now, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to make sure that you are prepared. That's all. We know you can do it, but sometimes the horses just say no. That's simple. All right.
I have a horse that knows the cue to stop, but knowingly chooses not to stop. How would you fix this?
Well, number one, again, not seeing the horse, I'm going to make a statement here that probably goes against the definition that the horse knows. Well, I'm going to tell you that the horse does not know well enough. It's that simple. If you can't control the horse, stopping, backing up, turning side, left, right, whatever it may be, and if they're not consistent with that, softly, comfortably, in an area where they're not setting up a defense, trying to pull against you or putting their head down or any of those kind of things, I will share with you that the horse does not know well enough. So zero in on that. When you stop, it stops 100%. Again, most of our horses, we take the mindset that they're not 21 years of age or older. So guess what? They don't get a vote. They're not expecting to vote. They're expecting for you to lead them through the communication through the reins. I can't emphasize that more than what I'm doing. This is the key, the cornerstone of training is communication. Right or wrong, you're communicating with every stride. Okay? This horse that you're having trouble with, and I believe the initial question said something about going in and out of the arena, doesn't say whether it's a covered arena or not. I don't get into all of that personally. I don't think horses have a problem with roofs. I don't think they have a problem with being outside. I just don't let that be part of the training scenario. I don't believe that horses do better with men or women. Men or women decide that they think the horse does better with them or somebody else. It's never been proven to me that they pick a side. I don't see that. The technique with a lot of the women is a little more soft, a little more comfortable, so certainly they may respond quicker. A lot of time guys want to macho it, strength, all of this good stuff. Well, I learned early on, you're not going to get anywhere there. Okay, make sure you check for pain on that horse that won't go in or out. Make sure they're not raw or something in their mouth that you've affected the bars or whatever. It may not be a stopping scenario at all. It may be a pain-related scenario. Again, I primarily think that you probably have not communicated well enough to make that horse halt when you say, okay? Reinforce the physical with the verbal. We do say, whoa, and release. Pull and release. Whoa. And the reason we do that is most of the time with our amateur and youth riders, we want them to say it because it puts their body in position to get it accomplished. If you're going to come up here in the next 10 feet and I'm going to give you the command to halt, and you go through the process mentally and then physically, that as it come up there as an instructor, I go, halt your horse, and you go, whoa, and release. Works out great. Again, this is all communication. Soft, comfortable, consistent. All right.
What is the founding formula for your success?
Well, I will tell you, besides the support of many other trainers that I've been with over the years and been fortunate in 50 some years, to be able to watch other people, much of the time, watch them do it wrong. Now, I'm not bashful. If I see a horse that's being abused, or if I see a horse that is not being treated kindly, I will say something. I will. Does it always go over well? No. I get a lot of pushback on that, but that just shows me the mentality of that person that's trying to do this abusive scenario, okay? I think the key areas of our training has always been comfort, consistency, control, and go from there. The horse is only as good as what you present it with. Absolutely maintain control. Programming is a key issue on all of this, folks, and I know we've had to quick kick some of the questions, but hopefully we've given you a basis to start with. Don't ever hesitate to get a hold of me if you want further questions answered in regards to what you've already asked. I will follow through with you, okay? We are certainly hoping that these other trainers within PFHA, the Professional Pasofino Trainers Association, will come forward and give us their expertise. Put it on camera, get these questions asked, and let's get them answered. To my fellow trainers, please keep our members safe. Do not suggest something that you know they cannot handle. You understand what I'm saying, okay? Be kind to these horses and they will take care of you. One of the other questions we had was about conditioning. When we start conditioning a horse, the bottom line is we don't care what gait they're in. Most of the time they're in gait, but if they're not, we're just conditioning. We are building up their consistency, their muscle mass, their ligaments, tendons, stretching, all of this. And while I'm at it, I'm going to touch on that one more time. The flexing exercises that we use with all this training gear, and you see the trainers flexing and flexing. Flexing is never a reprimand. Never. Now, if that horse is running away with you, you got to do what you got to do. But that's the exception to the rule. Be kind, be comfortable. Flex and allow them to come around easy. Make sure that their 4 feet are up underneath them, that they're balanced. Because when you swing their head and neck around, you're throwing them off balance. That's why a lot of the resistance comes in. Open your hand up and circle. Come around. When your right hand pulls back, the left hand's got to go forward. You can't have them with both of them tight unless you're backing up, okay? Be consistent again, the 3 or 4 C's that we talked about. So again, programming is the key issue. Start with A, B, C, D, and E every time, every day, and you will see how fast you can go through the letters and really get your horse trained. They do want to be good. They do want to make progress. They just need to understand what you're asking. One little tidbit of news, whether it be in the train, out on the trail, or in the show ring, the horses have never read the rule book. Even if they could. They really don't comprehend the rules, so don't expect them to play by the rules. They expect to deal with what God gave them, and that is fight or flight. Our job is to put them in a comfort level, somewhere in between, and make them part of us. Make us a team with that horse, okay? On behalf of the Pasofino Horse Association, particularly the membership committee and the Professional Pasofino Trainers Association, it's been my pleasure to be here with you on this initial segment of Ask the Trainer. Be careful, be safe, and we will see you soon.